Episode 9 is set to include many different twists and turns, as well as surprises by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that I am really looking forward to seeing in this movie is exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to use the concept of Jedi and Sith lore that's going to be used as a way to move the characters of Kylo Ren and Rey forward, and to also evolve the characters in this story. Now, we do know that JJ loves the aspect of Jedi lore. It's something that he wanted to explore more in The Force Awakens that he just could not fit in the final cut of that movie. Now, what's really intriguing about all of this is that it will also expand past the movies, such as books, novels, and even video games as well. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with Rey and a secret of the First Jedi. Specifically, a description of Rey inside the tunnels of the Lost City that leads to a sacred place, which is the location of the statue of the First Jedi. The next goes over Rey standing in front of the statue of the First Jedi, where next to it there is a stone structure that contains something of significance. It's described that Rey opens the top of the heavy stone structure that is in the form of a square that contains the first lightsaber in history. It's described to have a metallic hilt with strings wrapped around the hilt, with a large white kyber crystal sticking out of it. It's described to not be a saber that can ignite. However, it's a saber that served as an inspirational piece of inventing a working lightsaber for other Jedi throughout the generations. It's said that Rey begins to examine the sacred piece with R2-D2 by her side. So I want to go over a couple of parts about this and as to why it brings us all the way back to The Force Awakens. Now, what I really do love about, of course, Episode 9 is that JJ is exploring all of the different ideas for The Force Awakens that never made it to the final cut of that movie, and is indeed inserting it into Episode 9. So first things first, the First Jedi and the first lightsaber being a part of Jedi lore in Episode 9, I think is a fantastic element in this story, in order to move the character of Rey forward and learn more about the ancient ways of the Jedi, in order to build a new Jedi Order in this movie. So the whole entire Lost City, we're still not quite sure exactly what planet this resides on. We do know that it takes place underneath the surface of an unknown world, either in the unknown regions, the Outer Rim, maybe even the Mid-Rim for all we know. So the first lightsaber, it's described that it is a metallic hilt with strings wrapped around it, with a large white kyber crystal sticking out of the actual hilt itself. And it's a hilt that cannot ignite, however it's served as an inspiration in order to create the lightsabers that we all know and love to this very day within the Star Wars franchise. So not only does this sound amazing, but this also goes way back to what we saw in the art book of course, The Force Awakens. You guys may recall that in The Force Awakens, we saw something similar by JJ in there, where we actually got to see an ancient lightsaber, something very similar in design, where it had strings wrapped around the hilt, however not metallic. And it did indeed have a kyber crystal, however not white. In that part, it was actually blue. So you can see the similarities of what J.J. Abrams is taking from, of course, the art book of The Force Awakens and inserting that into Episode 9 in order to create more Jedi lore in Episode 9. And that, I think, is something truly amazing that he is trying to do in this movie. So that's one thing that was promised in The Last Jedi, was that we would actually see a lot of Jedi lore surrounding the Prime Jedi and ancient mysteries of the Force that would be discovered. We only got a little glimpse of that, which was, of course, the sacred Jedi text, and of course the text based within the tree library itself that Luke Skywalker didn't go over all too much. So, with that being said, how JJ is using elements of the ancient Jedi and ancient Jedi lore as a way to really make this movie feel like a real in-depth film when it comes to the Jedi and Sith ways of the ancient times of, the galaxy, I think is a very interesting aspect. It's going to be a very unique angle of the Star Wars franchise, specifically based within the sequel trilogy, something that we have never seen before on the big screen. It almost reminds me of something that you would expect to see in a movie like, let's say, for example, Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider or something around those lines, where, you know, you have one individual or two individuals actually venturing into these areas underneath the surface of a planet, discovering these ancient objects, relics, and artifacts. And that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing in this movie. And not only that, anything that JJ actually does introduce in this story will be expanded in the forms of course, comics, books, novels, video games, in order to really inform the fans around the world a whole lot more than a movie could ever do. And that's one great way that JJ Abrams is going to start all of this, is within episode 9. So I'm truly looking forward to that as well. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.